Okay, is everybody in? Okay, so this one's on water quality, so it's stuff that we've been learning about. If the water temperature is high, then the dissolved oxygen levels will be okay, so remember I told you to think about it like this. If the temperature is high, like if you're boiling water, what does it do? It evaporates. So the same sort of thing. If you have higher water temperatures in a creek or a stream, then it's going to evaporate out the dissolved oxygen, so that makes it lower. So you don't want high temperature streams, you want lower temperature streams, so you have more dissolved oxygen.
A good way to think about it is whenever you're boiling water, water bubbles up.
Yeah, so the bubbles come out of it. So the same sort of thing is going to happen with the creeks or rivers. Death of a water system is known as okay, so the only term that I've actually went over with you out of all these is eutrophication. So water side is these really aren't even other terms that we've even heard of or that is actually used. So eutrophication is where you get fertilizer and water. So phosphates, nitrates get put into water, and that's usually from runoff from where? Farms. What other example did I give you for fertilizer? Yeah, golf course. So farms and golf courses are your main places that are going to put fertilizers into water from runoff. When fertilizer's on land, what's its main purpose?
To help plants grow.
Yeah, help plants grow. So it does the same thing in water, but when it does that, it makes algae grow. So it makes algae bloom, it lowers the dissolved oxygen, so stuff starts to die out. So if you see a waterway that has algae in it, then it's going to have bad water quality. You do not want algae in your water. Okay, that means there's some stuff going on. So eutrophication is where you get algae and it starts to die off. The water quality term associated with how clear the water is . So turbidity's right. Clarity is not technically the water quality term that we use. So we use turbidity. That's how turbid it is, how many particles are in it, making it look cloudy or dirty. Organisms that help determine if a water system is healthy are called, you have bioenhancers, bioindicators, bioreceptors, or bioalgae. Okay, so bioindicators is the answer. We actually talked about these yesterday. So those are the animals that you look at to see if the water quality is good. So that would be the stoneflies, the mayflies, if it's got crawdads living in it, if it's got leeches and nasty stuff like that, then the water quality is going to be bad. The term for too many nutrients in the water. We've already had this one. Nutrients, think fertilizer. Okay, so we've already talked about too many nutrients in the water by talking about too much fertilizer being in the water, and that term is eutrophication. So too many nutrients, it's fertilizers in the water. However you word it, you're getting too much of the nutrients or fertilizers in it. If the water has a low turbidity, then the dissolved oxygen levels will be, so turbidity and dissolved oxygen, you're comparing the two. so low turbidity means that it's pretty clear water. So you're going to expect that to have higher water quality, so it would have more dissolved oxygen. Okay, runoff from farms is a main reason that these levels will be high. Okay, so I already went over this with eutrophication. It doesn't say fertilizer, so you're going to have to pick something that's in fertilizers. Okay, so nitrates, you know, have you heard that fertilizers basically is just putting what element into the ground? It's kind of the name of this. Nitrogen. You heard that before? That puts nitrogen into the soil and that's what helps it grow. Okay, so nitrogen is just the base of nitrates. So that's going to be what's in fertilizers. Which of these is not one of the 6 factors for determining water quality? So the stuff that we tested, which one of those is not one of those? Okay, so we didn't actually look, there's not just a specific category for pollutants, you have to kind of break those down. So it has to be like you're looking for nitrates or you're looking for phosphates or whatever. We have a temperature test, dissolved oxygen, and pH. Anything that has a negative effect on the water quality is known as a Okay, so pollutant is anything that has a negative effect on it. That can be a broad range of stuff. When you cannot determine the source of a pollution, it is called Okay, so you guys did a really good job on that one. That one kind of confuses people sometimes. So there's 2 types of pollution. There's point source and non-point source. If there's point source, you can point to it. You can say the pollution is coming from this barrel that's leaking into the stream. If it's non-point, you're like, I know that it's getting polluted in this area. I don't really know. It could be runoff. It could be this or that. That would be non-point because we can't point to the exact source of it. Okay, when thousands or millions of fish suddenly show up dead is referred to as Okay, so it's actually fish kill. That one is not really an important question, but that is what the term's called. True or false? Hot water is a pollutant. Okay, so it is true. You cannot put hot water into a water system. And some of the power companies, can't really remember where it was, somewhere out near Asheville, when I was in college, was actually getting in trouble for that because they were generating power with the water. It was heating it up and they were dumping it right back into the stream. So think about like trout. What do they like? Cold water. So if you're dumping hot water right in there on top of them, what's it going to do? It's going to kill them. It's going to take the oxygen out. So it's a bad thing to put hot water in there. So they actually have to have cooling tanks that cools the water off, and then they can put it back into the stream. True or false? High turbidity is good for water quality. So that's like, it's muddy, it's cloudy. So it's not good to have a bunch of particles in water. So you don't want it to be real muddy. You don't want to have a lot of stuff in it. Okay, what is the main cause of non-point source pollution? Non-point means you can't point to the source of pollution. Okay, so the main cause of it, remember, is runoff. So I told you, like, we know that it's getting polluted in this area. More than likely it's from runoff. pH number for the weakest acid. Okay, so on the pH scale, it goes from 0 to what? What's the top number? 14. And so the middle number is 7, and that is neutral. Okay, everything under 7 is an acid, above 7 is a base. So the one right around 7 that's still an acid would be 6. 8 would be what? This one's an acid, 7's neutral. Above it would be a base. Okay, so that would be a weak base. 14 would still be a base, but it'd be a strong base. How do you neutralize a strong base? So this is kind of a common sense question. You got a strong base, you want it to be neutral, you're going to have to neutralize it with okay, so you're going to neutralize it. You can neutralize it with a strong acid too, so that was kind of a tricky question. Weak acid is the best way because it's easier to calibrate it, but you can do it with both. Which number on the pH scale represents neutral? We just went over this one. Okay, so 7 is neutral. Which of the water quality factors is closely tied to eutrophication? So eutrophication is fertilizers, too many nutrients getting in the water. So which one of those would it be polluted by? Okay, so nitrates and phosphates, that's what you find in fertilizers. Which property of water is a factor leading to acid rain? Okay, so this one is kind of tricky because it's not something that we've really talked about, but you could eliminate stuff out. So you know these are properties of water. We've went over that. Surface tension is not going to affect acid rain. That's like the little water striders and stuff on top of it. High specific heat means it can hold in heat. That's not really going to do anything. Capillary action is like how it'll go up a straw or like up a tree, you know, to pull the water up through it. Universal solvent, so that means it dissolves all kinds of stuff. So if it dissolves stuff and it makes it acidic, then it will lead to acid rain when it evaporates. Good bioindicators of water quality fall into which category? Okay, so when you're thinking about these, you need to think about tolerant as in they can tolerate pollution, okay? So this could tolerate pollution. This could tolerate all kinds of pollution. This is slightly tolerant, which means that it can tolerate just a little bit. This means it can't tolerate any pollution, pretty much, so just hardly anything. So sometimes these are called intolerant species instead of low tolerance. But you have intolerant and tolerant. So tolerant can tolerate anything. Intolerant can only live in really good water. Okay, last one. Which of the following is a chemical factor for determining water quality? So chemical factor. Okay, so it was all of these. All of these are a chemistry test. So oxygen, think like chemistry. So that's on the periodic table. Nitrates and phosphates are a chemistry compound. pH is a measure of how acidic or basic it is. So that's a chemical thing. All right.